This is Benjamin Fulford. Last Wednesday, September 18th, there was a meeting in Japan between representatives of the White Dragon Society, Asian Secret Societies, Japanese Military Intelligence, the Yamaguchi-gumi Ninkyo Organization, and the Sumiyoshi Kai Ninkyo Organization. The meeting was held because more than 500,000 people were murdered in Japan, and the current people running for prime minister are not talking about it. They're trying to pretend like it didn't happen, and that's not going to be allowed to slide. We made a decision that the person to be held responsible for this is the fake U.S. Ambassador Rahm Emanuel. And we're, as a journalist, I know nothing gets done unless there's a deadline. So we're giving him a deadline of October 1st to either leave the country or we will arrest him. And this is backed by the military, white hats, as well as MI6. And this is not just about Japan, okay? But sticking to Japan for a bit more. Basically, what's happening is Rahm Emanuel is currently trying to install a Tavistock mind-controlled puppet by the name of Shinjiro Koizumi, who's the son of Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi, who handed over control of all of Japan's listed companies to BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, the Khazarian Mafia fronts for people like David Rockefeller Jr. Now, the only group they control now is the Inagawa Kai based in Yokohama, because Koizumi Shinjiro is a member of that gang, and also his faction was funded or is funded by drug money coming from Lord James Sassoon from the British Upper House of or the House of Lords. We have personally confronted Sassoon about bribing Japanese politicians with cash, and he has not denied it. So, we're on the record for this. And the other thing is, in Japan, the person most responsible is Prince Hitachi. Okay, he was aware that this was a mass culling event, and so is the Three-Legged Crow Secret Society. They seem to think that they have to reduce the population of Japan to 70 million. And they say they're being threatened by earthquake weapons. Now, we made it perfectly clear that if Japan is hit with an earthquake weapon in the Nankai Trough, there will be retaliation in the form of a hit on La Palma, which will cause a 100-meter tsunami to hit the U.S. East Coast and the South Coast of Europe. So it's a Mexican standoff. In other words, they have to do something. We're sick and tired of this. Now, the other thing is, this whole show, this fake presidential show in the United States is really getting absurd, with a second, obviously fake assassination attempt against Donald Trump. I mean, they released a picture where his leg is missing because of CG, and he's wearing a suit and tie. I don't know, but people don't usually play golf in the hot Florida weather wearing a suit and tie, and certainly not the real Trump. So this is all this fakery that's going on. Meanwhile, 159 countries have decided to stop using the U.S. dollar as of probably start in October. So it really is some kind of endgame. And we understand that there are families behind the scenes like the Orsini, the Farnese, the Medici. We don't care who you are. This has to end. Okay? Things are happening. There will be consequences. You cannot just murder tens of millions of people and expect there to be no consequences. Already, as you know, many people are being taken down. The big underground base in Los Angeles was blown up, and more is coming. This is war, folks, and we are not going to sit passively by. I'm going to personally go on October 1st to the U.S. Embassy, accompanied by representatives of those groups I mentioned, to arrest Rahm Emanuel unless I hear from them before that. This show has to end. We cannot continue with this travesty. Now, getting to the news, of course, Everybody's looking at the pager incident in Lebanon, where I think latest is over 4,000 people were maimed by exploding pagers. Uh, this is something that is potentially much more dangerous than that. Now, the people ultimately behind this are the Black Sun organization, and they keep saying that they will continue causing mayhem until a world republic is announced. So they're going to try to keep starting war with Russia. They're going to, do other things. And I need to warn you, I made some calls to Mossad sources and other people about these things, okay? Now, the lithium batteries themselves are not that much of a danger. They can explode and maybe blow your ear off or something, but the important is, if you know about the work of Dr. Gavreau, he developed a system of sounds that could kill people. And this military technology was so horrific that both sides in World War I agreed to stop using it. But they can potentially hijack your phone to issue a subsonic sound that will kill people. And I know that Apple is controlled by white hats. That's not going to happen, but I wouldn't guarantee it for all the Galaxy or Samsung phones out there. Some of them are hackable, and it would be a electromagnetic attack. Again, this can be traced to the Black Sun organization, and they're gonna keep raising mayhem until a world republic is announced. That's what they're saying. I'm just passing on the message. Now, the other thing I've noticed is that it looks like Elon Musk and his military backers are on the warpath. The EU commissioner who was trying to censor X in Europe was being forced to resign. And in Brazil, there were intentionally set fires all around the capital, Brasilia, and the main city of Rio de Janeiro that were threatening to destroy the cities. And suddenly, the Brazilian government backed down and agreed to allow X to start retransmitting in Brazil, and the EU is backing off from censorship. Now, I support Musk in fighting for freedom of information and freedom of the press and the truth, but the fact is that X is a limited hangout. They do still censor information, but what they're trying to do is channel the wish for freedom of information and the wish to rebel against the current establishment into a controlled opposition scenario. That's my understanding of that. I'll believe Musk more when he announces a switch to hydrogen, which is going to happen. It's just the obvious answer. So we are, in a state where things are coming to a head, and everybody must take personal action. This is no time to be passive, but we do know that a lot of these adrenochrome facilities are being taken down, and you'll see more earthquakes at a shallow depth, indicating underground bases are being removed. But we need to see it here on the surface. So we're going to ask the heads of the military to get off their asses and start doing something, finally. But it's going to happen. And I'm personally going to take action with the Asian societies and MI6, and we're going to go after these people, because we cannot have a system where leaders are blackmailed and compromised by videotapes of them torturing children in order to pursue a satanic agenda. Also, the Iranians contacted me and provided me with some very interesting information. If you go to the Chabad Lubavitch satanic website, they have a Jewish calendar that purports to go back to the year 5000 whatever. In fact, that calendar starts on the birth date of Sabbatai Zevi, and you cannot find a converted date before that, because that's where it's mathematically set. So Chabad has made it clear that they're Sabbataian Frankist Jews, and these are the people who want to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. And they are a visible target. They are not Jewish. They worship Satan. They are heretics. As far as Jews are concerned, they're heretics. And that's a visible target we need to go after. And this includes whatever offices and facilities they have in Japan. They will be targeted. Now, I noticed a UN vote, condemning Israel for crimes, which is, genocide. It's ongoing. And the list of countries that voted against it, in other words, the list of countries that supported genocide, are a list of countries that are 100% controlled by the Khazarian mafia. So we have a military target in these countries, and they are Argentina, Paraguay, Czechia, Hungary, Israel, Malawi, Micronesia, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Tuvalu, and the United States. So a couple of Eastern European countries, a couple of South American countries, a bunch of Pacific islands, and of course the fake U.S. corporation in Washington, D.C. So it's down to a very small number, and they are being cut off and sanitized, and they're running out of money, so hopefully this won't last much longer. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. Before we get into our questions today, I wanted you to address several comments from last week's video. Several people indicated you kept looking to the side of the screen as if sending signals someone was in there with you. Some of them are concerned for your safety. Was everything okay?
I'm trying to remember. I think what happened was a lady friend entered the house and was, standing there quietly but drawing my attention. But no, I'm under no threat. I continue to be an independent actor. So no, don't worry about that.
Excellent. All right, let's get into our questions for today. We have our first question that says, I would like to hear more about David Ben-Gurion ordering the assassination of JFK. Maybe that's why Trump would not release the information. It doesn't surprise me since they tried to sink the USS Liberty and machine gun the sailors trying to abandon ship. Israel should have been immediately bombed for it and their air force destroyed. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, well, David Ben-Gurion was taking orders from the Federal Reserve Board. And the reason is because after the Cuban Missile Crisis, whistleblowers like Benjamin Friedman came forth and said there's a cult controlling the Federal Reserve Board that is trying to start Armageddon. They're trying to start all-out nuclear war to carry out this plan, to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. So John F. Kennedy decided to take control of the U.S. dollar away from these people. He managed to get 144,000 tons of gold from Indonesia, Indonesian President Sukarno, who was the sort of top Asian royal, to back Kennedy dollars and take away control from the Federal Reserve Board. And that's why he was killed. So Ben-Gurion was basically taking his orders from the Rothschilds and the Octagon Group in Switzerland, who, again, are Sabbatean Frankists who want to, start an artificial Armageddon, as I keep repeating, and other people are now confirming. And the reason people like Trump don't talk about it is because they and their families are threatened, and because they still control the dollar printing machine, and they all want to get their mana from the machine. Okay, next question. Well, clearly there's still some bad actors in control on the ground in Israel, and I think at the end of the day, it's going to require the Turkish and Egyptian armies to move in there and arrest these people. And don't worry about nuclear blackmail, because they're not going to use the Samson auction because they don't want to die. And that's what will happen if they try to do that. Israel would be, one single bomb could completely obliterate Israel. So they're not going to do that. It's a false threat. So please send in your armies and arrest those people and restore the nation of Judea. Next question.
Hi, Ben. At various times, you have cited people like Anna von Reitz, who talks about various jurisdictions of state to U.S. government and layers of contracts and treaties that have removed any true connection that the people have to their oversight authority, and that's how the restoration of this original system would be best for the U.S. world. Do you see this restoration back to the original past as being the best way to proceed? Or that there will be an entirely new model of people to legislation that will be put into place once this is all settled out?
I think we need to start fresh, and there's a huge labyrinth of past laws and whatever, but we have certain basic principles we all agree upon, and things like the private property and freedom, and also the need for the government to serve the people and take care of things like roads and schools and defense. There are things we all agree upon, and I think we need to start afresh based on that, and use the best models from around the world to build a new system. So, for example, I keep proposing an economic planning system that was originally pioneered by Nazi Germany, but then taken over by Japan and then now China, which creates much, much faster economic growth. And that's why the Chinese are way bigger now than the rest of the world economically. Don't listen to the fake statistics about the U.S. being the #1 economy. Just for example, China produces twice as much electricity, and that's the basic way of measuring an economy. So it's at least twice as big as the U.S. They make 3 times more smartphones, 22 times more concrete, 13 times more steel, et cetera, et cetera. So unless we reform our economic governance, we're going to all be working for the Chinese. It's just a matter of time. But I think we need a fresh start, and we need to copy and improve upon the best models in the world right now. Next question.
Hi, Ben. If Kamala's electoral vote exceeds Trump's electoral vote this fall, what response, if any, will the White Hats do to either rectify the situation, validate the true vote of the people, or put the brakes on the process, or will something else occur?
I think that there will be war inside the United States if they try to steal this election for Kamala. It's not going to be allowed to happen. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. In the United States, there is a Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai who is attempting to make a bid to the presidency. He's a very small runner, but has a lot of good ideas. Have you heard of him or have any thoughts on his policy?
No, I don't have information. I'll look it up and I'll take a look at what his ideas. But the problem is, right now, the way the system is, it's not really a democracy where people get to choose the best person with the best ideas. It's big, ingrained factions, and I think right now it's a battle between the military-industrial complex, White Hats who are using Donald Trump as an avatar, and the owners of the big mega corporations who are trying to stay in power with Kamala Harris. And anybody else, no matter how qualified they are and how good their ideas are, will not be able to prevail under the current system. But I will look at his ideas. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself. As a reminder, the original Friday the 13th came in October, Friday the 13th, 1307, when the King of France grabbed and arrested all the French Templars in an attempt to extort their money. The Templars were carrying out charitable work around Europe, building hospitals and stuff, and their deaths caused a lot of suffering, and that's where the term Friday the 13th came from. And within a year of doing this, King Philip of France died, and so did the other people who made these arrests. And now it's very interesting because on this Friday the 13th in France, it looks very much like Emmanuel Macron Rothschild and his Brigitte Macron Rothschild's father, pretending to be his wife, are no longer in power in France. The Prime Minister Barnier seems to be the front for a group of French patriots who are trying to do something about the crisis in that country. There's also a big move in Europe and Germany, which has shut all the borders to stop the flow of illegal immigrants. And this is in conjunction with Hungary and basically the old Austro-Hungarian Empire, Czechoslovakia and Slovakia and Hungary and all those countries, and are all shutting their borders. And it looks like France too, there's something happening. So there's been a big change in Europe. And the other thing we can report is Ukrainian politicians are now openly admitting that the majority of Ukrainian troops have fled. So that war is basically over, and so big things are happening. Now, of course, the other thing, people were all watching this so-called Kamala Harris-Donald Trump debate. And I asked agency white hats about this, and this is their analysis. First of all, it's been widely reported that Harris has been told what to say through an earphone, and they said that there's signs that it was a silicone mask actor. And the Trump who appeared was the actor, who's been standing in for the white hats. But the parts where he was saying inconvenient stuff was edited out, and he was replaced by computer graphics. So what this shows is that the United States is still under the control of, the dark hat, at least if they can still stage an event like this and 67 million people watch. So I would say that's how many Kool-Aid drinkers there are left in the United States. But we had a face-to-face meeting with U.S. military and agency white hats, and something is going to happen. Now, I can't really talk about it. It's just like, for example, before D-Day, you don't want the Germans to know about D-Day. It's something like that. There's things that we don't want to give the dark hats a heads up on what's going to happen. But there are hints of things that point to something very big. First of all, there was a huge blackout in the Seattle area. Now that's where Microsoft and their whole computer complex is headquartered. So something happened there. There was also an earthquake directly under the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, and that's long been talked about as a major center for child trafficking, with major tunnels and a huge adrenochrome facility there. So something happened there. But I wonder about this Getty Museum, because it's almost like we're stuck in some kind of repetitive loop, because I've heard this news before. And it's like either there's it happens and then a different timeline comes in and it reemerges, or they're just repeating the fake news. I'm not sure about that one, but that's something to keep an eye on. In any case, what you can also predict is that if the dark hats control groups like of paid mobsters, like Black Lives Matter, whose leadership is not black, by the way, and you can expect that they're going to try to orchestrate all sorts of mayhem. And it's a good idea to keep your bathtub full of water, so that if there's some kind of shutdown, you can use buckets from bath water to flush your toilet, and also have a week's worth of food that doesn't require cooking, because something is going to happen. Now, I don't, and the one deadline, of course, is again the U.S. September 31st deadline, or 30th deadline for payments is coming up, and again they're having this government shutdown show, so that's something to watch out for. There's the big BRICS meeting in late October. That's also going to be a key event, because that's going to decide the future of the dollar. And this week there was a BRICS military meeting. Now, I'm understanding there's a global military alliance being built that would include North Korea, Russia, China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, India, etc. So basically, most of the non-European world military is going to form some sort of alliance. And we will have to strike a deal with them in the West or be completely isolated from the world. And that will happen. The White Hats are on the case. Now, a couple more things. Let me just check my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, one last thing I wanted to talk about was the situation in Japan. They're going to elect or select a new prime minister this month, and right now what we're seeing in the papers is a fake show run by the Council on Foreign Relations, and this is the same people who control Keir Starmer in the UK and Anthony Blinken, and these are the people who are talking about sending missiles deep into Russia and stuff. Fortunately, the military has said no, and they're not going to do it. And here in Japan, though, this government, they're saying that a guy called Shinjiro Koizumi is a leading candidate. Well, Shinjiro Koizumi wrote an essay with Michael Greenberg of the CSIS saying that the Japanese should obey Jews. And that's something that no would-be prime minister should ever be saying. And of course, he's not even talking about Jews. He's talking about Satanists. But this is the kind of group, and they're having a rice shortage here in Japan, which is engineered. We're not going to let this stupid show continue any longer. So there's a lot happening, and it's not going to disappoint. I won't give you an exact timeline. I don't have one, but certainly there's going to be a lot happening between now and late October as these things come to a head. But rest assured, the White Hats are winning. And the other thing I can tell you is that certain bloodlines are being completely wiped out. These aren't the ones you see in public, but they're very important, and there is still serious fighting going on behind the scenes. But I remain optimistic, but at the same time, I'm not going to be naive and predict that there'll be a total White Hat victory until it actually happens. But we're definitely on the offensive, and lots is happening. I hope you'll see this for yourself in many ways in the coming days that cannot be denied. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. It says, I wanted to run a theory by you regarding the Japanese yen. As you know, the Western financial markets are underpinned by the yen carry trade. In July, the yen banknotes got upgraded security features and are now scanner readable. You once mentioned that the yen was worth $2 long ago. My theory is that all other G7 nations will unwind, end the yen carry trade by establishing a new peg to the yen at 2 to 1. For example, $2 equal to 1 yen, 2 euros equal to 1 yen, etc. Current money supply of Japan is 1.3 quadrillion yen. The total value of global derivatives market is at least 2.4 quadrillion in US dollars, so 2 derivatives dollars per 1 yen. This new peg to the yen will back the global derivatives market using the yen supply. Backing of the yen with Yamashita's gold will be part of this. The yen will be the global reserve currency, at least initially. The other G7 nations will get truckloads of scanner-readable yen sent to their central banks. Once there, the new yen banknotes will be scanned into a ledger to verify their holdings. What are your thoughts on this?
That is a possibility. What I understand, they have introduced new bills with extra security features. So this there can be no doubt. And apparently they're phasing out most of the paper dollars again for a new one with new security features. And they're going to try to, get a lot of the old cash, and they're basically they're gathering it up and destroying it. So this is going on now. I don't think the idea of turning the yen into a new global currency standard is going to happen, even if there is such a plan. My understanding, though, is that, first of all, let's make it clear. The Bank of Japan is owned by Barclays Bank and by Edmond de Rothschild Private Bank in Luxembourg and by the Vatican Bank. It is not a Japanese institution. And this is the group that has been behind the, for example, the murder of 500,000 Japanese by vaccination. So we don't want them to stay in charge with this new scheme. The Bank of Japan needs to be nationalized, the same with the U.S. Federal Reserve Board, the Bank of Canada, etc. The central banks should be under the control of governments, not private Satan-worshipping individuals. And, of course, they need to be backed by real assets, not just gold either. So this scheme might be happening, but remember also when the yen jumped by 10% and the Japanese stock market dropped by 12%, and then there was a huge selling of U.S. high tech companies. This was an attempt by the Rothschilds. They killed the head of Hamas, and then they staged this financial coup, and they were expecting World War III, and they were betting, it was an insider bet that they would start World War III and everything would crash. But they were wrong, and they lost their shirts. At the end of the day, I think the BRICS meeting in late October is going to decide on some kind of a basket to replace the US dollar, and that's the more likely outcome. But the bottom line is nothing's been decided yet, and there's still a lot of horse trading between now and late October. Next question.
Hi, Ben. You mentioned some time ago that Obama had something to do with 9/11. Can you please elaborate on what other crimes Obama has committed? Also, what actions are being taken to prevent election fraud in the upcoming election?
Obama was selected a long time ago. I don't know about 9/11, but he is the son or the grandson of Adolf Hitler. So he's part of that same bloodline as Angela Merkel, Hillary Clinton, Rockefeller, that whole group that the British MI6 likes to call DVD. It's the Nazis. And Obama was responsible for a lot of crimes. I mean, letting in all these immigrants is one thing, and he was involved in many murders of his former lovers to silence them, and of course he was involved in the whole pandemic business. But 911, as far as I know, was not an Obama operation. That was more the Gnostic Illuminati laid a trap for the bloodlines by saying, let's do this 911, and then they deliberately sabotaged it to wake people up. So that was a plan set in motion by Bobby Fischer, the former chess champion, and supported by people like Dick Cheney. Obama was not a central figure in that. We were also contacted by Obama after Fukushima for him to say he had nothing to do with that in his group. That was the Rothschilds for sure, that operation. But there can be no doubt that Obama is a murderer who is behind the horrors of the Biden administration, and he needs to be removed, and he will be. Next question.
Hi, Ben. What is your opinion on the claim of the allegedly real J.F. Kennedy Jr. and his book Stolen Identity? Reminds me of the James Francis Alexander case, who claimed he was the real Prince Harry and was exchanged when he was 10 years old, very similar to the claims of JFK Jr., found dead in a hotel room in Ireland with several bullets in him.
I have not seen proof that JFK Jr. is alive. I know that he's used as some kind of psyops, but if he was alive, he should be appearing in public in a very visible way that cannot be denied by anybody. I don't see that. So right now, as far as I'm concerned, they're using the name as some kind of hopium psyops. And I would pay more attention to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I keep mistakenly calling JFK Jr. I apologize for that. But he is real, and he's out there, and you can confirm that. I don't see that sort of evidence for JFK Jr. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Says, I too know Dick Cheney from actually growing up in Wyoming. My stepfather even helped initiate Cheney into local Masonic group there in Casper. The old Cheney Ranch was across the road from the Garrett Ranch, part of our extended family run by my Uncle Pete and Aunt Ethel. Can you explain if he's been in touch with you and is such a, quote, good guy, why is he supporting cackling Kamala? I used to like old Dick as well, but I am older and wiser now than when I was 14 and worked to get him elected into Congress. I still have the old Cheney for Congress bumper sticker and buttons from that campaign, as well as my letter from Dick when I was selected for Wyoming Girls State in '81. They may be useful one day for target practice.
Okay, I was contacted by Dick Cheney shortly after the Asian secret societies offered me protection. And for years, he provided me with, and via me, the public, with valuable information. For example, he told us that David Ben-Gurion ordered the assassination of John F. Kennedy. He also told us that Donald Rumsfeld had sold nuclear technology, nuclear missiles to North Korea. And I think that he was trying to do the right thing, and he was a patriot based on my contacts with him over the years. However, he died in 2021 of a heart attack, a natural heart attack. And my agency sources tell me that the Dick Cheney who appeared to endorse Kamala Harris was a computer graphic fake. I know that he's a controversial figure, and I think that he did a lot of evil things, but towards the end of his life, I believe he was trying to do what he felt best for the United States as a patriot. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. It's great to hear that New York governor has called in the military to restore order in the city. However, that does not compute.
I know that the mayor has still not been removed, so it's an ongoing war, but the fact that the military is in New York to protect people from common thugs is a sign of real white hat action. But again, it's not over until it's over, and we must not underestimate these people. They're very powerful, they control mega corporations, they're very intelligent, and they'll do anything, and they're fighting literally for their lives. So we have a big fight ahead of us. This is not a time to be naive, but I think New Yorkers can see for themselves that the troops in New York are protecting them from criminals and judge them by their actions.